73 years. It has been 73 years since my predecessors gave the right of self-governance to the first city in Italy, a request granted out of pity. Because of that single mistake, for the next 73 years the Italians have been taking advantage of the empire's struggles, safe behind their consuls and bishops. They first stripped the ruling power of the nobles, bribing or waging war against them. Then they stripped them of their very lands. They even dared to attack and exile His Holiness out of the Eternal City. And now, helpless and without any protection, some of their consuls come groveling before my feet, asking for my protection against their neighbors. What a bunch of hypocrites. But I will grant their wishes. They will be once more under my empire's protection. Vai Arnaldo tiranne Rome, vai Mediolano tiranne Langobardorum, meum imperium repugnabit. Hello everybody, this is Harmonia Link and today we are continuing the A Brief History of the Italian Communes series. Today, unlike the last time, we are not going to cover an entire century, but we will focus on the first part of the reign of a figure that would shape the future of the Italian communes and, some say, even the earliest form of Italian identity, this figure being none other than Emperor Frederick I of the Holy Roman Empire, nicknamed by the Italians of his time Barbarossa, due to his red beard. Before we start talking about his intromission in communal life though, we must first do a recap of what we talked about in the last video. So, without delaying it further, let's get right into it. As we have seen in the last video, the Italian communes emerged from a climate of instability between the Holy Roman Empire and the papacy, named the investiture controversy, during which many Italian cities either asked the emperor or simply gave themselves through the local bishop a right to self-govern in the absence of imperial power, starting with Pisa in 1081 AD. With time, the communal institutions started consolidating power both into their home city and onto the surrounding countryside, to the disadvantage of the local feudal lords and even of other communes. Such is the case of Milan, which rose to a status of local power by threatening and assimilating the surrounding communes into itself. The first to heavily feel Milan's power was the commune of Laus Pompeia, city nowadays known as Lodi, which in 1111 AD, after 4 years of war, was conquered by Milan, prohibited from rebuilding damaged structures and forced to suppress its weekly market, which made Laus a relevant trade location. Next in line was the commune of Como, which defended itself against Milan from 1118 AD to 1227 AD, year in which it was defeated and doomed to be partially destroyed. Northern Italy wasn't the only place where the communal ideas were thriving, and eventually in 1143 AD, the people of Rome realized their dream of the Renovatio Senatus, the refounding of the Roman Senate, founding alongside it the Commune of Rome. This commune had a difficult beginning since its local bishop was none other than the Pope, which, while implicitly recognizing the existence of the Senate and the commune, continued ruling over his lands unbothered. This until 1145 AD, year in which Arnold of Brescia, an Augustinian monk, came into Rome, preaching to the people the return of the church to humility and poverty, the non-validity of sacraments if given by unworthy clergy, and the ability of the laity to confess one's sins to someone else than a clergyman, total heresy for the time. 3 years later, the Pope of the time, Eugenius III, excommunicated Arnold, but to no avail, since Arnold's popularity was too high, leaving Eugenius with no choice but to retreat from Rome momentarily. In 1152, Eugenius, now threatened by the Norman Kingdom of Sicily as well, officially recognized the Senate and the Commune in an attempt to ease tensions between the papacy and the city, but at the same time he sent envoys towards Germany, asking for help to regain control over the Eternal City to a newly crowned King of the Romans. 1152 AD is the year in which today's protagonist is crowned as King of the Romans. His name is Frederick von Hohenstaufen, crowned the Duke of Swabia in 1147 AD and now elevated to kingship. Frederick was born around 30 years before, in an unknown date, from Duke Frederick II of Swabia, part of the Hohenstaufen dynasty, and Judith of Bavaria, daughter of Duke Henry IX of Bavaria, part of the Welfen dynasty. As you probably remember, these two dynasties were the ones that fought over the election as King of the Romans, but now, thanks to our Frederick, the dispute can be put aside, since he had both Hohenstaufen and Welfen blood in his veins, making him the perfect candidate to the throne, but only under one condition, being that under his rule, Frederick had to give to the Duke of Saxony, being his cousin Henry the Lion von Welfen, the Duchy of Bavaria, at the time held by Henry von Babenberg. In order to discuss the matter, the first act that Frederick I did was calling upon 4 imperial diets, the diets of Würzburg, Worms, Speyer and Goslar, all of them ignored by Henry von Babenberg, who did not even show up. This, however, would not stop Frederick and the other nobles from nominally granting to Henry the Lion the Duchy of Bavaria. After fixing that issue temporarily, Frederick called upon another diet in 1153 AD, the Diet of Constance. During this diet, Frederick listened to 2 merchants of the city of Laus and the consuls of Pavia and Como, which all asked the same thing from the King of the Romans, that being protection against the tyranny of Milan. Frederick also listened to the papal delegation, and the result was the following. Both the Pope and Frederick would not recognize the legitimacy of neither King Roger II of Sicily nor the Basileus Manuel I Comnenus over any land in southern Italy, and agreeing to wage war against the Normans of Sicily. Furthermore, Frederick swore to liberate the pontiff from his exile and capture Arnold of Brescia. In exchange, the Pope, which now was Anastasius IV after the recent death of Eugenius, would then crown him Emperor of the Romans. With this decided, Frederick, alongside his cousin Henry the Lion, prepared themselves and their armies to cross the Alps. Frederick and his cousin, once past Tyrol, stopped at Roncaglia, where another diet would be called. In this diet, the King of the Romans formally reappropriated himself with all of the royal prerogatives, called the regalia, that all of the communes gave themselves, among which taxation, right of coin minting, and control over imperial lands, which were also to be given back to the rightful feudal owners. Not accepting this, the Commune of Milan sent Frederick a sum of 4,000 silver coins in exchange for the right of keeping its regalia and the right of control over other cities, some that Frederick refused, leading to the armed response of the Milanese. While this was going on in the north, in the south, William I succeeded as King of Sicily to his father Roger, while in Lazio, Pope Hadrian IV succeeded as pontiff following the death of Anastasius IV. Going back to Milan and Frederick, the cities of Asti and Tortona rebelled against the demands of the Hohenstaufen king, aiding Milan, but to no avail, since in 1155 AD, Asti would be sieged, captured and then given to the loyal Marquis of Montferrat, while Tortona would be sieged and then razed to the ground, with its inhabitants dispersed. After this, Frederick pondered upon a possible anti-Norman alliance with the Basileus Manuel I, but ended up deciding not to go against the Diet of Constance, in which he himself stated that neither he or the Pope could recognize any lands in southern Italy as rightfully under Manuel, a recognition he would have had to give if he wanted to ally himself with the Basileus. Instead of this, Frederick started negotiating with the communes of Genoa, Pisa and Venice, which all wanted to get a share of the trade ports inside the Kingdom of Sicily. While these negotiations were ongoing, Frederick passed Easter inside the city of Pavia, where he would then be crowned as King of Italy. Once ready and conscious that no hostile commune would chase him, the Hohenstaufen started marching towards Rome, and on his way captured Arnold of Brescia, declared him a heretic and burned him at the stake. Frederick, who managed to arrive in the proximity of Rome before the end of the year, met Pope Hadrian IV, and the two took refuge from the Commune of Rome in the Leonine city, a guarded citadel inside Rome, in which Frederick was finally crowned as Frederick I, Emperor of the Romans. With this done, the newly crowned emperor reclaimed Rome from the dissidents and, pressed by the Pope, prepared himself to invade the Kingdom of Sicily, Unfortunately for him though, his barons and armies were against the continuation of his campaign, being content with the plundered goods taken from northern Italy, pressuring Frederick to return to Germany, a retreat to which the Pope reluctantly agreed. On their way back, the imperial armies sieged and sacked the still rebellious cities of Spoleto and Verona, before finally arriving back safe into Germany. Once there, the now Emperor Frederick still had an issue to solve, being the dispute over the Duchy of Bavaria, which would be solved by granting Henry von Babenberg the Duchy of Austria in exchange of the Duchy of Bavaria being given to Henry the Lion. With Frederick now gone from Italy, Pope Hadrian IV felt threatened every day more by the Normans of Sicily and decided to go against what was decided in the Diet of Constance, granting to King William I during the Treaty of Benevento the recognition as sovereign of all southern Italy. This, of course, led to a worsening in the relations between the Empire and the Papacy, which would be further worsened during the Diet of Besançon. On that occasion, the Pope sent a letter to the Emperor in which he implicitly underlined that Frederick was his vassal. Frederick was comprehensively shocked, and the papal delegation did not make things any better, since Cardinal Rolando Bandinelli, during all of the Diet, treated the Emperor very poorly, reaffirming multiple times that the Emperor's power derived only from the Holy See itself. To add to that, in 1158 AD, a year after the Diet of Besançon, Milan aided in the reconstructions of the city of Tortona. Frederick, tired of all of his defiance towards the empire, called upon his allies, this time including King Vladislaus II of Bohemia, and set foot in Italy again, in order to punish Milan alongside any rebellious commune and solve the issues with the Pope. The Emperor, once in Italy, swiftly defeated Brescia, ordered the rebuilding of Laus, and called upon the Second Diet of Roncaglia, in which he would promulgate two decrees, the Constitutio de Regalibus and the Constitutio Pacis. With the first decree, Frederick reclaimed once more all the regalia in possession of the communes and reiterated that nobody can, without imperial concession, take over, buy or sell any land inside the empire. With the second decree, Frederick granted peace to every commune that would not rebel against him, prohibited any defensive or offensive league between them, de facto prohibiting any commune from waging war, and imposed that the office of podestà must be given only to an imperial official and no one else. Furthermore, he granted that every commune that would desire to maintain their regalia autonomous from imperial power could do so by paying a yearly tribute to the emperor. These decrees were so controversial that even fellow imperial communes started questioning their allegiance to the emperor, aside from the communes of Pavia and Cremona, faithful allies of the emperor during all of his campaign. In any case, upon hearing about the decrees, Brescia and Crema rebelled, while Milan answered by not granting Frederick the regalia, waging war against the commune of Trezzo and taking its land. And then people wonder why I don't like Milan, such pettiness. In any case, the emperor, fearing the rebellion of more communes, called for reinforcements in Germany, call to which his wife Beatrice of Burgundy and his cousin Henry the Lion would answer. They were accompanied by a Marquis Welf VI of Tuscany and Duke of Spoleto, determined in retaking his lands from the communes. Once his allies arrived in 1159 AD, Frederick stationed himself in the city of Como, reorganizing his armies and planning the next move, being the siege of Crema, in which he would be crucially aided by Cremona. The siege would end in 1160 AD, after 7 months, with the surrender of Crema. While this was going on in the north, in the city of Rome there was a lot of tension, since Pope Anastasius IV recently died, and the cardinals couldn't decide on who to elect as his successor, leading eventually to the election by the slight majority of none other than the papal legate that repeatedly humiliated the emperor during the Diet of Besançon, Rolando Bandinelli, now Pope Alexander III, while a minority of the cardinals elected Pope Victor IV, a friend of Frederick. Due to this confusion regarding the election of the pontiff, Frederick convened a council in Pavia to have the clergy solve this issue. The Council of Pavia was a total failure, because pretty much only the Bishop of Germany showed up and Alexander IV did not even move from Rome, leading to an almost unanimous acclamation of Victor IV, which immediately excommunicated Alexander III, who, of course, had to answer by excommunicating both Victor IV and the Emperor. Catholic politics are really on another level. Anyhow, for all the rest of the year, Frederick and his allies fought against Milan all across the Lombard plains, and in order to end his stalemate, asked for more reinforcements from Germany and from Hungary. Reinforcements thanks to which, finally, he managed to besiege Milan. This would be the longest siege of the campaign, because both the Milanese and the Emperor knew that if the latter won, it would be over for Milan's hegemony over Lombardy, and if the former won, the Emperor had to recognize the legitimacy of the communal governments. Thus, for an entire year the two sides would clash, with Brescia and Piacenza trying their best to give as many supplies as possible to Milan, while Laus and Pavia reinforced the Emperor's army and tried to block access to Milan from its allies. But in the end, brought to its knees due to hunger, the city of Milan capitulated the 10th of March 1162 AD, with its consuls begging the emperor for mercy. Frederick granted peace only on the following conditions: that Milan accepted an imperial official as podesta, that its outer walls be torn down, and that the city swore fealty to him. In exchange for this, the emperor and his army would not harm anyone in the city. With this accomplished, Frederick entered triumphantly in the city of Pavia, where he would celebrate his victory in the following days. Here, however, the emperor would be pressured by the cities of Cremona, Laus, Pavia, Como, Novara and Vercelli to raze Milan to the ground out of fear of a possible Milanese revenge over them, and, eventually, he would agree to their demands. And so, by the hands of the same Lombards that Milan had multiple times conquered and humiliated, the city of St. Ambrose was razed to the ground and its citizens were dispersed across all of Lombardy. With the Communes reined in and with an anti-pope on his side, Frederick felt that he had accomplished enough, and with that he crossed the Alps and went back into Germany, rich and exalted, leaving the communes of northern Italy either destroyed or now dependent on imperial power, and no longer an autonomous self-governing entity. But not all communes accepted this, and due to Frederick's increasing demands, soon enough discontent would reach even his old allies. The cities of Padova, Verona and Vicenza, less impacted from the last campaign as the Lombard cities, began to act autonomously from the empire once more, convincing Frederick to descend into Italy again, after only 1 year since he went back into Germany. But due to an illness, he was forced to retreat as soon as he set foot in the Italian peninsula. Thanks to this, in 1164 AD, the three Venetian cities decided to form a league called the Veronese League, or League of Verona, which was comprised by the aforementioned Verona, Padova and Vicenza, plus Treviso, with the entire league being sponsored by the Commune of Venice. While the league organized itself, the anti-pope Victor IV died, succeeded by Pasquale III and eventually Calixtus III, both contrasting Pope Alexander III, which in the meantime managed to get recognition from most Christian monarchs, and also allied himself to the Basileus Manuel I, the Commune of Venice, and the new king of Sicily William II. In addition to all of this happening, in the Commune of Bologna the imperial podesta was killed, leaving Frederick with no other choice than preparing a new army to bring back his rule in Italy. But of that, we will have to talk in the next video. So, if you want to know how Frederick's reign continues and see if the communes manage to free themselves of the imperial yoke, stay tuned. Until then, consider helping the channel out by leaving a like and subscribing. Special thanks to my tippers and see you next time.
Libera, libera, libera,
Silenzio! Noi altri consoli delle città di Crema, Bergamo, Brescia e Cremona, insieme ai rappresentanti dei cittadini della distrutta città di Milano, ora sparsi per la Lombardia tutta, abbiamo preso una decisione ed è la seguente. La totalità dei comuni e le città della Lombardia, ad eccezione di Pavia, giurano e si impegnano a ricostruire la città di Milano e giurano di non dare tregua né pace a Federico Barbarossa, imperatore. Viva la libertà, viva i liberi comuni!